Prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurudmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Takanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणि जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, so welcome everyone. We are discussing from third canto Srimad Bhagvatam. We are on chapter 5th. Talks between Vidura and Maitreya. So far we have discussed how Vidurji, after meeting with Uddhav and hearing from him the various pastimes of Krishna and all the Yadu dynasty, he asks Vidur Uddhavaji that please tell me about the Paramam Sthiti, that knowledge which was given to you by Krishna. So Uddhavi says, no, actually I'm not qualified to speak that knowledge. There will be a Maryada Patikram. So he thought like that and he said, please go to Maitreya. He's there nearby only. He's on the bank of Ganga at Haridwar. So Vidurji, he bids farewell to Uddhav and starts to meet with Maitreya. There he meets with Maitreya on the bank of Ganga at Haridwar and he asks so many questions beginning with why people in this world are suffering. Why he didn't ask directly about the Paramam Sthiti, the confidential knowledge which he wanted to hear. Why he started from a basic question, why people are suffering, they want happiness, they are getting distress. We discussed, there was one verse in which anyone remembers why Vidurji began with that, and he didn't directly go into the question of asking about the Paramamsati.
Did not start that by giving him want to get that knowledge.
Okay, so basically he was thinking that I'm not sure whether he heard it or not because Krishna was speaking to Uddhav and Maitreya was present. So if he would have heard it, then he would automatically on himself he would speak about it. I don't want to embarrass him. So let me begin with some basic questions, and if he likes, he will automatically tell that okay, Krishna has spoken this knowledge also. So then Vidurji asks so many questions about the Purusha avatars and Leela avatars and so many things. So Maitreya Muni was confused where to begin with. So Vidurji says, please begin with the Purusha avatar katha. And that's how the creation topics began in this chapter, 5th chapter. So we discussed till verse number 30, where? 41. 40? 41. 41 हो गया था.
31 हो गया, 42.
So 42 I think we were discussing. Okay, so let's cite the 42nd verse. So this is the section where Maitreya Muni is describing how after the primary creation of There are two types of sarga. Anyone remembers?
Karma and
Karana Srishti and Karya Srishti. So after the Karana Srishti is done and all the elements are already made, but still they are not coming together. So all the sense devtas, they come together and they start praying to the Supreme Lord. So these are the sections, prayers of the sense devtas. So we were discussing the 42nd prayer. यश्रद्धया श्रुतवतया च भक्त्या
यश्रद्धया कृतवत्यया च भक्त्या
समृज्यमाने हृदयवधाय
समृज्यमाने हृदयवधाय
ज्ञानेन वैराग्यबलेन धीरा व्रजेम तत्याङ्घ्रिसरोजपीठम्.
Simply by hearing about your lotus feet with eagerness and devotion, and by meditating upon them within the heart, one at once becomes enlightened with knowledge. And on the strength of detachment, one becomes pacified. We must therefore take shelter of the sanctuary of your lotus feet.
Yashraddhaya Shrutavataya, simply by hearing with faith and devotion, the devotees of the Lord, Samrijyamane Hridaya Avadhaya, and meditating upon them, meditating upon the lotus feet within the heart, Hridaya Avadhaya. So what happens? Jnanena Vairagya Balena, he at once becomes enlightened with knowledge, and on the strength of detachment, Balena, he becomes pacified, he becomes satisfied, Dhira. And therefore, O my Lord, Vrajema, we must go and take shelter of Angri Saroja Pitham, the lotus sanctuary of your feet. So, sanctuary of your lotus feet. So, this is the meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord. How meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord reveals knowledge and detachment. So the lotus feet is glorified in many places in Srimad Bhagvatam. In the third canto, it is described how Kapil Dev, he tells to his mother, one should begin by meditating from the lotus feet all the way up to the lotus face. And Prabhupada writes in this purport, the miracles of meditating on the lotus feet with eagerness and devotion are so great that no other processes can compare to it. The minds of materialistic persons are so disturbed that almost it is impossible for them to search after the Supreme by their endeavors. But even such materialistic men, with a little eagerness for hearing about the name, form, qualities, can surpass all other methods. So the importance of hearing is given in this verse. So Prabhupada writes, after few lines he writes, the most stubborn attachment of material enjoyment is sex life. And one who is attached to it is to be understood as devoid of knowledge. Knowledge must be followed by detachment. That is the way of self-realization. These two essentials for self-realization, knowledge and detachment, become manifest very quickly. Which verse says this? These two essentials, knowledge and detachment, they automatically manifest quickly in the devotee. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam and Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. Very easily it develops. So Jnana and Vairagya naturally develops in the heart of a devotee. As Yamunacharya, he prays, my Lord, now I have become steady in your remembrance. I am meditating on your lotus feet. So all the previous attachments, they don't attract me much. I don't get disturbed by them. I spit at that thought. So that is called as dhira. A person is not disturbed even in the presence of the cause of disturbance is called dhira. So he has become now. So Yamunacharya, Prabhupada gives the example of Yamunacharya, how he has become dhira. Yadavadi mama cheta Krishna padarvinde nava nava rasa dhamni udyatam rantumasit aho batanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukhavikara shushthunishtivanam cha. I spit at the thought when the remembrance of my association with all the queens was okay. So he had queens and he was living in opulence. But now he is disgusted. A devotee of the Lord becomes an elevated dhira simply by meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. And then in the next paragraph it says, devotional service entails being initiated by a bona fide guru and hearing from him, following his instructions. So the process of hearing is so wonderful that even if a person who is so-called materialist, if he becomes dedicated to the process of hearing, he also gets purified in due course of time. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, 13th chapter, Anye tu evam ajanantah shrutva nebhya upasate tepi chati tarantyeva mrityam shruti parayana. Anye, others, Anye tu evam ajananta, they don't know, but they worship me just by hearing about me. Shrutva nebhya upasate. Tepi chati taranti, they also cross. So that is the power of hearing about the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay, next verse. विश्वस्य जन्म स्थिति संयमार्थे संयमार्थे कृतावतारस्य पदाम्बुजं ते व्रजेम सर्वे शरणं यदीश स्मृतं प्रयच्छत्यभयं स्वपुंसाम्.
O Lord, pursue incarnations for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. And therefore, we all take shelter of your lotus feet because they always award remembrance and courage to your devotees.
Yes. Prayachati. So the remembrance of the lotus feet gives two things. Courage to the devotees. So one who takes shelter of the lotus feet gives two things, remembrance and courage. Smritam prayachatya bhayam, remembrance of the Lord and courage. A devotee becomes fearless. That is one thing which comes in the life of a devotee. In all the situations, they are fearless. They never ever get disturbed by the problems which come in their life. And Srila Prabhupada has shown by his personal example how he was fearless. At the age of 70, going to an unknown country with no one to take care of. So that is how one becomes fearless, by taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Okay, next verse. Somebody can read the translation. 44th verse.
O Lord, persons who are entangled by undesirable eagerness for the temporary body and speech-man, and who are bound by thoughts of mind and eye, are unable to see your lotus feet. Although your lotus feet are situated within their own bodies, but let us take shelter of your lotus feet.
So now in the next 4 verses, he describes who are qualified to take shelter of your lotus feet and who are unqualified. So he says, in this verse, your lotus feet is unapproachable by those who are absorbed in thoughts of I and mine. Yat sanubandhe sati deha gehe, one who is entangled in deha and geha, I and mine. Mam aham iti, I and mine. Udha duragrahanam, and they are very deeply absorbed in this conception. For them, it is very, very difficult to take shelter. Pumsam suduram vasato. They are far away from taking shelter of your lotus feet, O my Lord. Bhajem tatte bhagavan padabjam. So therefore, let us take shelter of your lotus feet, because we are not like that. So in the purport, Prabhupada describes the famous, 3-4 verses from the 15th chapter, 16th chapter of demoniac person. How a demoniac person thinks. Oh, so much is mine now and I'll get more. I have defeated this person. I have killed this. I will kill others also. I have so many aristocratic relatives. So these three verses. Adhyo Vijanvan Asmi Konyostu Sudrisho Maya. So all that Prabhupada writes in the purport. And all this is Aham and Mama. But, the Prabhupada writes, but even a person perpetually condemned to the miseries of material existence can get relief from bondage if he agrees to hear only Krishna Katha. In this age of Kali, the process of hearing Krishna Katha is most effective means to gain release from unwanted family affection. So in the previous verse, in the 43rd verse, it was described how it is easy to take shelter of you just by hearing about you, remembering your lotus feet. But for those who are attached to family and the body, this is also very difficult. The most easy thing becomes very difficult. To remember the Lord becomes very difficult if one is attached to sense gratification. Mam aham. Another verse describes Bhagavatam. Yeah. Tavat kara griham griham yavan mohongri nigro yavan krishna nitejanaha. So the person who is not taking shelter of Krishna, who doesn't have Krishna in his life, for him, his house becomes kara graha. His graha becomes kara graha. And the family affection becomes the shackles in which the people are bound. So, and such people, they can never take shelter of Krishna. So the easiest thing becomes the difficult thing for them. Next verse, translation.
O great Supreme Lord, offensive persons whose internal vision has been too affected by external materialistic activities cannot see your lotus feet, but they are seen by your pure devotees, whose one and only aim is to transcendently enjoy your activity.
So who can see you or who cannot see you? Offensive people, they can never see your lotus feet, oh my Lord. Asat vrittibhir akshibhir ye. So those people who are asat vritti, those who are materialistic, and they are influenced by external energy, they can never see you. But those who are great devotees of the Lord, they can see, only they can see, others they cannot see. So whatever externally we do in our life, that affects our consciousness internally. So the external materialistic activities. So if somebody is doing externally materialistic activities, he cannot think that internally his consciousness will be spiritual. No, it is not possible. Externals affect the internals. In the first canto, third chapter, 44th verse, Prabhupada writes a very important purport. He says, one should hear with rapt attention from real person. And then he can at once realize the presence of the Lord in every page. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. And then he writes, no one can give rapt attention who is not pure in the mind. No one can be pure in the mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and making. So it all boils down to basic external activities. So external should be very, very clear, clean. So whatever activities we are doing. So Prabhupada writes in the purport in the same line, it is not possible for those whose internal vision has been covered by external activities, they can never see the soul and super soul who is there in the heart. The pure soul, which is symptomized by consciousness, can be easily perceived by a common man because consciousness is spread all over the body. The yoga system helps to concentrate the mental activities internally and thus see the lotus feet of the Lord within oneself. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada describes about who are the offenders. And the offenders, what is their consciousness? All these materialists, all these Mayavadis, they are offenders. They reject the form of the Lord. And he's Prabhupada, right? Such offenders cannot actually see the lotus feet of the Lord within themselves, nor are they even able to see the devotees of the Lord. The offenders, however, lose the chance to receive the Lord's devotees, although the offenseless common man is at once influenced by devotees' presence. So, a person who is a very, very great materialist, for him to acknowledge the devotees and welcome them, it is very difficult. But a simple person, he can very easily welcome them because he is naturally humble. So Prabhupada writes in one place, when a devotee goes to a house of a millionaire, a dog comes barking and chases away the devotees. But a simple person, poor person, he is generally humble. He welcomes the devotees and gives them nice place to sit. And Prabhupada gives the example of Nal, Kuvar, and Manigriv, how they were so very intoxicated because of the wealth, because of the high birth, because of the connections with Lord Shiva. Rudrasya anucharo bhutva sudriptau dhanadatmajau kailasho ramye mandakinyo madotkatau. They were the associates of Rudra. Rudrasya anuchar, sudripta, very fulgent body. Dhanada Atmaja, they were sons of Kubera. And what are they doing? Kailash Upavana Ramya. They were moving around in the beautiful forest and the gardens of Kailash. Mandakinyo, and they were in Mandakini Ganga, but what they were doing? Varuni Madiram Pitwa. They were drinking liquor, surrounded with women, enjoying. And when Narad Muni came, they didn't even care to cover themselves. That's how a person who has this wealth and prestige and strength, he becomes intoxicated. And then Prabhupada writes, offenders have to wait until they receive the mercy of devotees. Just like Nalakvar Manigri, they became the recipient of mercy because Narad Muni desired so. Lord, when he appeared and he delivered them, he said, actually, I have nothing to do with both of you. You are not my devotees. Still, why I have come? Because Narad Muni had told that you will be delivered by Krishna. Devarshi me priyatamo. Devarshi is my dear. Yadimao dhanadatmajo tat tatha sadhishyami yadgitam tan mahamana. Because he has told, that's why I am forced to deliver all of you, both of you. Otherwise, I have nothing to do with you. So that's how it is. Prabhupada writes, due to their offenses and their extreme materialism, they cannot even see the devotees of the Lord. Engaged in external activities, they kill the internal vision. But the Lord's devotees, they are so merciful, they continue to bestow their blessings. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, one should not disturb the faith of ignorant people, Krishna says. Kaun sa shlok hai wo? One should not disturb the faith of ignorant people. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, devotees, they go one step ahead and they disturb the faith of ignorant people and they bring them to Krishna consciousness. So that's how it is. Devotees, they go one step ahead of Krishna and they try to give Krishna consciousness. I think third chapter mein hai, 25th or something. I don't know. Na buddhi vedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidwan yukta samacharan. You should not disturb the faith of ignorant people. But in that purport, Prabhupada writes, devotees, they disturb the faith. They shake them and they give them Krishna consciousness. That's why devotees, they go one step ahead of Krishna. Next verse. Another beautiful verse. पानेन ते देव कथा सुधायाः प्रावृत्या विशदाशयाये वैराग्यसारं प्रतिलभ्य बोधम् सान्वीयुर्मकुण्ठधिष्ण्यम्
Attain the stage of enlightened devotional service, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge and attain the Vaikuntha Loka in the spiritual sky simply by drinking the nectar of your topics.
So in this, they are saying the path of devotion is very easy and ensures highest goal. Panena te deva katha sudhaya. Simply by drinking the nectar of your topics, pravriddha bhaktya. Pravriddha bhaktya means one becomes highly enlightened. Praviddha bhaktya vishadashayaye. And they become very serious in practice of devotion. What happens then? Vairagya saram. They achieve the complete meaning of renunciation. Pratilabhya bodham. And they get all the knowledge. And they attain the spiritual sky. Akuntha dhishnyam. Yatha anjasa anvihu. Anjasa. Very quickly they achieve the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky. That which is most difficult becomes easily available just by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, drinking the nectar of your topics. Where in some few places, Krishna describes how bhakti is very, very simple and easily performed. In Bhagavad Gita also, there are few places, anyone remembers? Bhakti is easy. Okay. Simple, simply performed. Or no, bhakti is easy to perform. Tasyaham sulabha partha. In one verse he says, sulabha, it is very, very easily attained, O Arjun. Na chirat, very quickly one will attain. क्या वो? Tesham aham samudharta mrityu sansara sagar bhavami na chirat. You will attain very quickly. It is very easy, very quickly attainable. So that is how bhakti is very, very simple to achieve, to practice, and the results are easily attainable. But then Prabhupada in the purport, he describes how impersonalists, they are so doing such hard work. In 12th chapter Bhagavad Gita, 5th verse, Krishna says, Klesho adhikataras tesham. Their path is troublesome and goal is also difficult, troublesome. Why? Why goal is troublesome for impersonalists?
Because even if they attain impersonal, when they start doing personal meeting with God or personal association with God, it is very difficult to understand them.
No, impersonalists, they never attain the personal darshan. They just merge in Brahman. So why it is described that the goal is also troublesome, the path is troublesome, the end is also troublesome.
So there is a chance that they will fall down.
They will fall down again. That is one thing. And any
There is
other?
no interactive.
There is no reciprocation, so there is no satisfaction there. They get peace, but then the peace doesn't last long, because soul by nature is active and wants to reciprocate with someone. So the goal is troublesome. They have to do all the yam, niyam, asana, all that, and then whatever they achieve, that is also difficult to retain. Yanya arvindaksha vimuktamanina tvayasta bhava avishuddha buddhaya aruhya krichena parampadam patanti. So Prabhupada writes about that, but devotee, he has to just hear about Krishna and he gets purified. They don't have to do all the hard work of impersonalists. Last line Prabhupada writes, with a serious attitude, the devotee throws away all achievements of impersonalists so much dust. धूल की तरह साफ कर देते हैं. They clear it off. And he accepts only devotional service, the transcendental culmination. And then again, they say in the 47th verse, how all the other paths, they just give pain. तथा परे चात्म समाधि योगा बलेन जित्वा प्रकृतिं बलिष्ठां त्वामेव पुरुषं विशन्ति ते श्रमस्या न तु सेवया ते
Others were pacified by means of transcendental self-realization and have conquered over the modes of nature by dint of strong power and knowledge, also enter into you. But for them, there is much pain, whether the devotee simply discharges devotional service and thus feels no such pain. Again, you are saying the same thing, right? Here.
Devotee doesn't feel much pain. So whatever pain a devotee experiences, that is the source of greatest joy. Who is saying this? One bhajan it is described, Bhakti Thakur writes, "Oh my Lord, whatever troubles I am going through in your service, they are the cause of my greatest bliss. Because that will remove the ignorance from my heart. Tomara sevaya dukkha hoy jata seyoto parama sukha. Seva sukha dukkha parama sampada nashaya avidya dukkha." Oh my Lord, whatever pains I am going through in your service, tomara sevaya dukkha hoye, seyoto param sukha. They are the sources of greatest bliss. Because seva sukha dukkha. सेवा में जो भी सुख हो रहा है दुख हो रहा है दे आर माई ग्रेटेस्ट ट्रेजर परम संपद बिकॉज नाशय अविद्या म्यूट कर दीजिए
I wanted to see that power.
So that's how log out. That's how all the other paths they are troublesome. But path of Krishna consciousness is very easy to perform, and whatever trouble the devotee goes through, that also gives bliss. Iti nandadayo gopa Krishnaram katha muda kuruvanto ramamanascha navindan bhava vedana. In the 10th canto, it is described whatever pains are all the Brajvasis are going through, they were not even experiencing, they were not even realizing that it is pain for them because they were absorbed in Krishna Rama Katha. Kurvanto Ramamanascha, they were absorbed in this Krishna Rama Katha. Navindan Bhava Vedana. All the Bhava Vedana was not troubling them. So that's how devotee, they never go through any troubles of this world externally if they're absorbed. Because the absorption makes one oblivious of the problems of the life. So that is the experience of everyone. If we are absorbed in some service, we don't even remember eating prasad, भूल जाते हैं सब सेवा इतना बचा है, ये करना है, वो करना है. We forget even eating. We forget even, small pains we have, बैक हो रहा है, हेडेक हो रहा है, कोई बात नहीं, सेवा चल रहा है. भूल गए, याद ही नहीं आया, अरे दुख रहा था पहले तो अभी सेवा में भूल ही गए. किसी को ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस सेवा में भूल ही गए कि अरे बैक हो रहा था इतना ये था. And when as soon as after we seva is done, then we realize अरे अभी दुखना शुरू हो गया. So that's how it is. Prabhupada writes, in terms of labor of love and its returns, the devotees of the Lord always have priority over persons who are addicted to the association of jnanis and yogis or mystics. So devotees always have an upper hand. So all the others, the word is cha apare, tatha apare. Apare means what? All the jnanis and the yogis. They have lots of trouble because they want something from their practice. Bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakali, shant.
We know that bhakti is done because we are following this path of bhakti. But jnanis also, they think bhakti is superior, so they follow jnana.
No, they think bhakti is not such great. क्या है एक जगह बैठ के खाली हरे कृष्णा मुंह हिलाओ. We are doing some great activity.
Research.
We are using all our brains. They can't do all that. That's why simple process is given. एंड योगी जैसी इतना अष्टांग तपस्या कर रहे हैं, हम ये लोग क्या एक जगह बैठ के खाली हरे कृष्णा आने कुछ हो गया तरफ से. That's how they never understand the power of simple process of bhakti. They are so to say, they are more overqualified, to take to this process of bhakti, because they think हम लोग इतने बड़े हैं, ये simple से क्या होगा हमारा, That is the glory of bhakti. Even a simple person can practice and perfect his life, but a person who thinks that मुझे तो इससे ज्यादा मालूम, then they'll have to endeavor so much. Then bhunam janamanam te jnanvar. That's understanding. One may suggest that there is sufficient labor for devotees also in the matter of discharging devotional service. मेहनत तो करना पड़ता है यहाँ पे भी. But that labor is compensated by the enhancement of transcendental pleasure. Seva sukha dukkha parama sampad. Devotees derive more transcendental pleasure while engaged continuously in the service of the Lord than when they have no such engagement. So that's the understanding. So to the extent we are absorbed, to that extent we are oblivious of the problems. So we have to be absorbed in service, absorbed in Krishna, absorbed in chanting. Absorption is the only thing which can take us ahead in the process of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, just there's a buzzing sound. So just by doing services whole day, it is good, but we have to be absorbed and conscious of why we are doing our services. Conscious service is more important than just doing services. There is a difference. Doing services whole day, so many services I am doing, but most of the times we are in that rajogun of doing the service and not even remember once that I am doing it for Krishna. So this conscious service is more important. That will purify us faster. So that is what we have to endeavor, in our various services, to be conscious. And I'm doing it for Krishna. I want to please Krishna. Otherwise, in due course of doing our services, we may forget that why I am doing this. So we have to always remind ourselves that, okay, I'm doing it for Krishna. Then the problems will not irritate us much. Otherwise, when we are not aware of why I am doing services, then somebody chastises us, some things go wrong, we become frustrated and upset. But if we are conscious that, okay, I'm doing it for Krishna, then we will realize and always remember the ultimate goal. I want to please Krishna. Will Krishna be pleased by my this response or reaction? What Krishna wants me to do in this condition? What Gurudev wants me to do? What devotees will be happy with? So we have to be conscious always. Otherwise, the Rajogun of Seva can sometimes, make us more result oriented than to be Krishna conscious, result conscious or Krishna conscious. So we have to be very careful, because anything we do in this world, it requires some Rajogun. Any creation, any management, anything we do, Rajogun is needed. But that Rajogun should not take us away from Krishna. So we have to do a conscious endeavor also. Okay, next verse. Now, from 48 to 51, they pray for enlightenment and for directions. तत्ते वयं लोकशिक्षयाद्य त्वया न सृष्टा त्रिभिरात्मभिस्मा सर्वे वियुक्ता स्वविहारतन्त्रम् न शक्नुमः प्रतिहर्तवेते.
But yours only. Although we are your creatures, we are born one after another under the influence of the three modes of nature. And for this reason, we are separated in action. Therefore, after the creation, we could not act concertedly for your transcendental pleasure.
So they are saying, we are yours, O my Lord. You have created us. Tatte Vayam. All of us belong to you. And we have appeared for the sake of creation. Sritikshaya. For the sake of creation, we have appeared, O original person. And therefore, after the creation, we could not act for your pleasure. We cannot do anything if you don't give mercy. You created us, but now we are not able to do anything. So please enlighten us and give us directions. Prabhupada writes, the last line, the best policy is to act for the sake of the Lord. That will bring out the desired harmony. So all these different different elements were created, all these devatas are created. They are not able to understand what to do now, how to create harmony and go ahead. So therefore they are praying. Next verse, translation.
O unborn one, please enlighten us regarding the ways and means by which we can offer you all enjoyable grains and commodities, so that both we and all other living entities in this world can maintain ourselves without disturbance and can easily accumulate the necessities of life both for you and for ourselves.
So now, please enlighten us so that we can offer a service. So without enlightenment of Krishna, nobody can do anything. So that is how Prabhupada writes, Devatas are conscious. They are conscious of all the activities are only for serving Krishna. Developed consciousness begins from the human form of life and further increases in the form of Devatas. So that's what Prabhupada writes in the first paragraph, how Devatas, they are advanced in culture, enjoyment, luxury, beauty, education, but they are always aware that they have to serve the Lord. They are servants of the Lord. They are eternally, constitutionally servitors. They are always aware. They never forget it. Sometimes they forget and Krishna immediately corrects them. It's like Indra and Brahmaji, that happened. And then in the next second paragraph, Prabhupada writes how Lord maintains everything, because the verse says, we and all the living entities can maintain ourselves without disturbance only if we offer to you. Because Lord is ultimately the maintainer. We can just do our endeavor, but you maintain. So he says, modern theory that starvation is due to increase in population is not accepted by devatas or devotees. Prabhupada always gives an example. There are hundreds of elephants in the Amazon jungles. They are eating tons of grass. They are also provided. There is no dearth of grains. Earth can actually provide, 10 times more. So he says, it is duty of the human beings to acknowledge the mercy of the Lord. As a matter of gratitude, they should feel obliged to the Lord for their supply of foodstuff. So gratitude is an essential part of devotee. All the things which a devotee has, he should be grateful. Gratitude is not a part of bhakti. Gratitude is bhakti. To be grateful to Krishna is devotion. Otherwise, only a wretched person and a sinful person is not grateful. Sadhu is always grateful for whatever he has received from others. And then the third paragraph, Prabhupada describes what is the duty of all the living beings. So we should offer whatever we have received, we should offer to the Lord to get purified of the sinful reactions. Okay, next verse, translation. In
You are
this,
the original personal founder of all the demigods and the orders of different gradations. Yet you are the oldest and are unchanged. O Lord, you have no source of opinion. You have impregnated the external energy with the semen of the total living entities. Yet you are unborn.
so all these are the technical prayers. They are the devatas. They are saying how Lord is the supreme creator, maintainer, and he's the one who is the enjoyer of everything. So all these are described here. Prabhupada in the purport, he describes how Lord is the father of everyone, from Brahma to the smallest ant. Everyone comes from Supreme Lord and they are taken care of by the Lord. Prabhupada writes, when he descends on the material plane, out of his causeless mercy, he accepts one of his great devotees as his father. He is always independent in choosing who will become his father. Lord came out of a pillar in his incarnation as Narsimhadev. By causeless mercy, Ahilya came out of the stone by touch of the Lord. So that's how Lord does inconceivable activities, and he is free to do whatever he wants. Okay, next verse, the last verse. Translation.
Most good self. Please give us who are created in the beginning from the Mahatma, the total cosmic energy. Your kind directions in how we select. Kindly award us your perfect knowledge and potency so that we can render you service in the different departments of subsequent days.
So now they are asking for the knowledge. Please award us the perfect knowledge and potency so that we can start this process of creation. So that's what Prabhupada also emphasizes, how Lord is the source of everyone and everything. He awards the potency. So he is the source of Jiva Tattva and Shakti Tattva. All the expansions, Vishnu Tattva, Jiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva, they are offshoots of the same Supreme Lord. Everything comes from him. There are two types, then Prabhupada elaborates on the Jiva Tattva. There are some Nitya Baddha and they are Nitya Mukta. So he describes about Nitya Baddha, who are they, how they come in this material world, and they are given a chance to rectify their independent mentality. So all that. And he says the Devatas, they are amongst the conditioned souls who have developed this pure consciousness of service to the Lord, but at the same time continue to desire to lord it over the material energy. They are karma mishra bhakta. They want to serve also, but they think, okay, thoda humko bhi milega to chalega. We want something in return also. They are not completely pure. So that's why they are put into this managerial positions, because Krishna, he provides whatever a devotee wants, if it is not adharmic. But in the due course of that, he purifies the desires also. So that's how the chapter ends. And now the sixth chapter, the creation of the universal form. So all these 23 elements of creation are made: Mahatattva, Ahankar, 5 Tanmatras, 5 elements, 10 senses, and the mind. All these are the 23 elements. They were existing in the unmixed state. Then all these devatas, they prayed very nicely. And so that was there in the last section, 39 to 51st verse of the 5th chapter. So now in this chapter, Maitreya Muni describes how Karano Dakshai Vishnu responds. So these prayers are made to Karano Dakshai Vishnu. And he responds to the prayers by entering into that universal shell. The shell was made, but still nothing was happening. So Lord entered in that shell as Garbho Dakshai Vishnu, and then manifested the Virata Rupa. So that is what will be described in this 6th chapter. So this is another complicated creation process which is being described here. So first verse, Maitreya Muni continues. Iti twasam swashaktinam satinam prasuptalokatantranam gatimishwarah.
The Rishi Maitreya said, the Lord has heard about the suspension of the progressive creative functions of the universe due to the non-combination of his potencies, such as the Mat Tattva.
So he heard about all the prayers. He realized, okay, nothing is happening. So he started working on it. So Prabhupada writes, there is nothing wanting in the creation of the Lord. Purnamada Purnamidam. So this universe is perfectly made to frustrate our desires. All the potencies are there in a dormant state. So there is nothing remaining. Everything is there, but they may be in the dormant state. But unless they are combined by the will of the Lord, nothing can progress. Okay. So this is the another description of the universal form. So some yogis, they don't have the conception of the personal form of the Lord. Just like if a president is coming in a limousine car, so the people who are seeing, they say, oh, president is coming. Although they don't see the president, they see the car. But they understand, oh, he is the president. That is the condition of the Ashtanga yogis, the attached yogi. They can't focus on the Paramatma in the heart. So therefore, they are focusing on the Virat Rupa. So they don't have this conception that there is somebody inside that car who is president. So universal form gives some conception about the Lord. So that is what will be described here. Kala sangyam tada devim
Kalasanyam tada devim
Viprachaktim urukramaha
shaktim urukrama
Trayovimshati
विप्रशक्तिम् उरुक्रमः
tattvana
vana
Ganam
त्रयोविंशतितत्त्वानां गुणं युगपदाविशत्.
Then simultaneously entered into the 23 elements with the goddess Kali, his external energy, who alone amalgamates all the different elements.
So in second and third canto, 5 times the creation topics are described. First time in the first chapter of the second canto, 2.1, why it was described, and every time the purpose was different. It was not that we Maitreya Muni ko kuch aur nahi yaad aa raha tha to ek aur baar bol dete hain bhai, every time the purpose was different. So the first time the Virat Rupa was described to tell that the dharana ashraya of the attached and detached yogis are different. So the detached yogi, their dharana ashraya is what? Where do they meditate on? Detached yogi. They meditate on Paramatma, who is there in the heart. And the attached yogi, they meditate on Virat Rupa. Second time, in the 6th chapter, it came again. This time, it was described to show that whatever we see in this world, everything is coming from the Lord. Lord is the material and efficient cause of the creation. The Upadan Karan and Nimitta Karan. Everything is Supreme Lord only. Dravya, Kala, Chakarmascha, Subhava, Jiva, Evacha, Vasudevo, Paravanyo, Na Chanyo, Artho, Asti, Tattvataha. Everything comes from the Lord. So Lord is the efficient and the material cause. Materials are also provided by him, and the effect is also coming because he is bringing them together. Third time it came in the 10th chapter of the second canto. There the purpose was, whenever the Virat Roop desired of eyes manifested, the Virat Roop desired to see and eyes manifested, desired to smell, the nose manifested. So the desires shape the gross and the subtle body. That was the third description. Whenever living entity desires, then they get a gross body and subtle body. That was the third description. The fourth description is coming here in the third canto. In that, it is described to show that the universal form created by Lord's Chit Shakti, so that elements could perform their functions. So this universal form is created by Lord Shakti, and all these elements can function only when the Lord enters into them. Otherwise, they are just lying inert. So all the elements, they can perform their functions only when the Lord's Shakti enters into it. And the last time it will come in the 26th chapter in Kapila Devahuti Samvad. There it was described that everything was done, but still the Virat Roop was not working. It was not functional. Everybody, all devatas, they were trying their best, but still the Virat Roop was not manifesting. Then ultimately Lord entered. So the purpose was, without the Lord, the jivas and the bodies of the jiva cannot exist. So that is the purpose of the description. When Vasudev, when the Antaryami entered the heart, then the universal form rose up to function. So that's how different times the creation is described, and every time the purpose is different. So in the first verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, the elements such as Mahatattva are called as Lord's Shakti. Swashaktinam, the first word, first line says, Iti tasam Swashaktinam. So Lord Shakti means Mahatattva. It's coming from the Lord only. And it is coming from the Maya. It is the Maya creation. Maya Shakti, Prakriti. So first is Dravya or Pradhan or Prakriti. Then Lord glances on it and then it becomes another. It transforms into Mahatattva. So Mahatattva is the Shakti of the Lord and it is coming from the Maya. So all the things which are happening in the creation, they are working because of, they are getting transformed because of time factor working. Kala choditaha. You know, this word will come many times. Kala choditaha. Second verse also says, Kala sangyam tada devi. Kala sangya. Vibhrat Shakti Urukramaha. So Urukrama, the Supreme Lord, he had his Vibhrat Shakti. Vibhrat Shakti is what? Cohesive energy. That energy which puts all the elements together. Vibhrat Shakti. And when this cohesive energy appeared, all the elements came together, they entered, Vibhrat Shakti entered into this 23 elements, and then they came together and started functioning. So Prabhupada writes, all are combined together by the influence of time and are again dissolved in course of time. Time, therefore, is the energy of the Lord and acts in her own way by the direction of the Lord. This energy is called as Kali and is represented by the dark, destructive goddess. So this Kali is the representation of the time factor, the dark time factor, which destroys everything. Okay. So then as the Vibhrat Shakti entered, so what happened then? Third verse describes, Sono pravishto bhagavams cheshta
Pravisto
rupena
Bhagavan
tangam bhinnam
Cheshtarupena Tanganam
sapyojayamasa
Bhinnam
prabodhayan.
Sanyojayamasa Supta Karma Prabodhayan.
Thus, when the personality of Godhead entered into the elements by its energy, all the different entities were involved into different activities. In that case, one is engaged in his work after achieving some sleep.
So all the living entities, they were enlivened and they entered into different activities. So as soon as the Supreme Lord puts his Vibhrat Shakti, the elements come together and the process further continues. These individual living entities are conditioned souls everlastingly, Prabhupada writes. And but in each and every material creation, they are given a chance to liberate themselves and become free souls. By properly studying the Vedas, one becomes conscious of his position and thus takes to transcendental devotional service and is gradually promoted to the spiritual sky. So the living entities who are Nitya Baddha, they are always given a chance. So Lord never gives up on anyone. He's always giving chance. Since millions of lifetimes, he is again and again giving chance. He never gives up on anyone. That is the hope for us. Just if we are told that ये आपको दिए हैं, ये devotee है, इसको सेवा में लगाना है. And he is so dumb, he is not understanding. उसको 10 बार समझाया तो भी, तो क्या करेंगे आप? ये नहीं चाहिए. दूसरा. But Lord is so merciful, so patient. He never gives up on anyone. You know, Yamuna Mataji, she recalls that one time in the initial days when Prabhupada was talking about, speaking on Chaitanya Charitamrita, after 1 month of everyday lectures, one person, he raised his hand and said, Swamiji, can you tell me who is Lord Chaitanya? So Prabhupada said, oh, you have asked a very wonderful question. You know. So 1 महीने के बाद ऐसा क्वेश्चन पूछेगा तो उसको क्या बोलेंगे? So that's how Krishna and the devotees, they are so patient. They keep on giving chance one after the another. They never give up on anyone. So by properly studying the Vedas, one can become conscious and we can gradually progress. So then Prabhupada writes how after dissolution, living entities, they forget everything. They remain in a suspended state and they enter in the body of Mahavishnu or Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And in the next creation or the next day, they again appear. And who reminds them of their desires? Lord reminds them, Tumhara ye baki tha. You know, you wanted to do this service. This desire was remaining. Lord reminds us. Lord is so merciful. He is reminding us of our desires so that we can understand, okay, ye mero karna tha. So that ultimately on your own, till the time you say, I don't want this. Jab tak Bhagavan will facilitate. He will just sanction our desires. He will facilitate our material desires. This unseen guidance is described as fate. And a sensible man can understand that this continues his material bondage in the modes of nature. So that's how it is. And then Prabhupada writes how a living entity is unconsciously sleeping at the time of dissolution. And then in the next creation, Lord is giving them chance to remember their previous activities and continue their work. In the 4th verse now, the universal form is created. Prabuddha karma devena त्रयोविंशति को गुणः
कर्मा दैवेन
प्रेरितो
त्रयोविंशतिको
जनयत्स्वाभे
गुणः प्रेरितो जनयस्वात्
पुरुषम्
मात्रार्भेदधिपुरुषम्.
And the 23 principal elements
When
were
the
executed
23
by the will of the soul.
So when the 23 elements were set, then this Virat Rupa appeared or Vishwa Rupa appeared. So that's how the universal form appeared. And then Prabhupada writes it is not an eternal form of the Lord. Vishwarup is the material form of the Lord and it is temporary form of the Lord. And Krishna, he showed the Virat Rupa to Arjuna also in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virat Rupa. Krishna exhibited this Virat Rupa. So Virat Rupa appeared from Krishna. Krishna is a source. Therefore, Virat Rupa is not eternal form. Krishna's form is eternal. And Prabhupada writes, Archa Vigraha or worshipable deity in the temple is a similar manifestation of the Lord for the neophytes. But in spite of their material touch, such forms of the Lord as Virata or Archa are non-different from his eternal form as Lord Krishna. So that's how Lord is so merciful. He appears in a form in which a devotee can appreciate. Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti tattad vapu pranayase sadanugrahaya. In whatever form a worshipper wants to worship the Lord, Lord appears in that form. If he wants to worship the material form, Lord appears in Virat Rupa. If somebody wants to worship in a Archa Vigraha form, Lord appears mercifully in that form. That's how Lord is so very merciful. So same elements are made to create the material world, universe, and the same elements are there for in the creation of the deities also. So the deity worship is very, very important to purify our desires. So devotees, they may like to worship the deities, but worshipping the devotees is more difficult because deities never give feedback. Deities never say, "ये वाला मुझे पसंद नहीं है, आज इधर नहीं लगाने का मेरे को." Don't put this choker, don't put this har. But devotees will give all the feedback. Worshipping devotees is more difficult, but that is more purifying. Okay, next. परेण विशता स्वस्मिन् मात्रया विश्वत्रिगणः
मात्रया विश्वसुग्रनः
अन्योन्यमासाद्य
चुक्षुभामान्योनमासाद्य यस्मिन्
Yasmin
लोकाश्चराचरा
Lokashara. As the Lord in his plenary portion enter into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all the movable and immovable creation rest.
So that's how the Lord's creation, the Virat Rupa, is functioning.
The creation
So-
of Brahman is not mentioned. The
मतलब वो it was understood. It is not given in chronology. One thing I forgot that this description which Maitreya Muni is giving, it is not given in chronology. So to 3.1 to 10, they are not in chronological order. In the second canto, 5th chapter, from 32nd to 35, that's the right chronology. Here, Maitreya Muni is not giving the right chronology. He will describe in the 6th verse this, what you are saying. 6th, 7th में बताएंगे फिर ब्रह्मांड appeared.
will happen only after
Yes, yes. So he's not giving the correct right chronology. Krishna Chakravarti Thakur writes that. So sometimes the speakers, they speak something early, something later, but the audience knows, so they take the liberty of speaking something, not in chronology. But the right chronology is what we have discussed earlier. It is mentioned there. मतलब वहाँ पे universal creation, मतलब the formation of the Brahmand is not described. How it was, the egg was formed and then it was laying for 1,000 years. So that will come in the 6th verse. The gigantic Virat Rupa lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe. And उसके बाद yeah. Actually वो दिया ही नहीं. Sorry. The creation of the combination of all the elements to form the universal shell is not given here. So, but it is understood, it will happen. So it happened, then after that, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Karanodakshay Vishnu entered the Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So that is mentioned. But the formation of the universal shell is not mentioned.
With the same as Hiranyamaya and universal features, different.
Where?
This verse is about the Hiranyamaya and universal features.
Hiranyamaya Purusha is the golden, the gigantic Virat Purusha. I'll just see the Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's translation, what he says. This golden form was the totality of the universe. He remained in the waters of Garbhodak, which were within the shell of the universe made of 14 planetary systems. So this golden form is the entire universe. In the second canto, we had heard that this universal shell was golden. That it was a golden shell. It was very effulgent. So that is called as here Hiranmaya Sapurusha. So that shell was a golden shell. So that is, and in that shell, then Karanadakshay Vishnu entered as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Garbhodakshay Vishnu was lying in the this Garbhodak ocean. So that the Hiranmaya is the universal shell. If you read the second canto, it is described that it was golden shell. So that is what is described here. And Chakravarti Thakur also writes, this golden form was the totality of the universe, Samasti Virat, Samashti Virat. Okay, so we were on fourth, right? Fifth, we were doing. We read the translation. Okay. So Prabhupada writes in the fifth verse, the elements of the cosmic creation are all matter and have no potency to combine unless Lord enters. There must be some living entity to put all the elements together. All the elements, all the ingredients in a kitchen, they cannot automatically go into the cooker or kadai. Somebody has to put them together and then stir them, and then the things will be made. That is what is described here. So Lord, in his plenary portion, entered into the elements of creation, and they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems are resting. Okay, so then
Three Vishnu is there, here two only described.
Shirodaksha Vishnu तो आया नहीं ना अभी तक. अभी after Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Shirodaksha Vishnu will come. So still only Garbhodaksha Vishnu is described here. So from Karanadaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu has come. So from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Brahmaji will come, and then this Shirodaksha Vishnu will come. Yes, he'll come as the soul of this all the living entities, and the soul of soul of all the super soul of all the living entities. The super soul of this entire cosmic manifestation is Karanadaksha Vishnu. Super soul of this one universe is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Super soul of every living entity is Shirodaksha Vishnu. So that's how it is described. So just like when the soul enters the body, then the body grows. Similarly, when the Supreme Soul enters the universe, the movement starts. So all these people who love nature, they keep talking about the miracles of the nature, but they don't understand who is the person behind these miracles. Only when Super Soul enters the creation, then the creation starts manifesting all these wonderful manifestations. Otherwise, it is not possible. So that's how it is described here. Okay. So now the next verse. Hiranmaya sa purushaha sahasra parivatsaran andakosha apsu
Andakosha Vapat
The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranyamaya, lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him.
So Prabhupada gives a different meaning. Hiranmaya Purusha, he says it is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes it as Hiranmaya means the aggregate of all jivas. So Prabhupada and Chakravarti Thakur, they give the different understanding of this Hiranmaya. So Virat Rupa has three forms, just like our body has three forms: gross body, subtle body, and the soul. So Virat Rupa also has three forms. The gross form is called as Vairaj Brahma. Vairaj Brahma means the lotus flower and the stem. that is called as Vairaj Brahma. And Brahmaji used this lotus to create the 14 planetary systems. That is a gross form of the universe. Then there is subtle form of the universe. That is called as Hiranyagarbha. The Hiranyamaya, which is described here, that is Hiranyagarbha. And what is this Hiranyagarbha? That is the aggregate of all the living entities that is put together, and that is considered. They are not put together, physically, but the aggregate of all the living entities, they are called as Hiranyagarbha. And who is the soul of this universe? The primary soul of the universe is Brahma. So that is the understanding. So this giant Virat Purusha known as Hiranyamaya lived for 1000 celestial years on the water of the universe. Hiranyamaya Sa Purusha Sahasra Parivatsaram. Okay, next verse. What happened after that? Savai Vishwasrijam Garbho Deva Karmatma Shaktiman Vibhabhajatmanatmanam
The total energy of the Mahat Tattva in the form of gigantic Virat Roop divided himself by himself into the consciousness of the living entity, the life of activity and self-identification, which are subdivided into 1, 10, and 3 respectively.
Ekadha, Dashadha, Tridha. Just a minute. Savai Vishwasrijam Garbha. So this fetus composed of various elements endowed with Deva, Karma, Atma, Shaktiman. So Jiva Shakti, Prana Shakti, and Atma Shakti. Prabhupada writes the consciousness of living entities, the life of activity, and self-identification. Jiva Shakti, Prana Shakti, and Atma Shakti. So this entire Hiranyagarbha has 3 Shaktis: Jiva, Prana, and Atma. Divided itself, Atmanam Vibhabhaja, divided itself into 3. What are they? Ekadha, Dashadha, and Tridha. So that's how this Jiva Shakti was, this fetus was divided into 3 parts: Ekadha, Dashadha, and Tridha. So what is this Ekadha? Ekadha is the consciousness of the living entity. Dashadha means the 10 life heirs. And Tridha means the 3 modes of identification. So that is what is described by Chakravarti Thakur. Ekadha, Dashadha, and Tridha. Prabhupada also writes about that. 10 types of life air: Prana, Pan, Upan, Udan, Saman, and 5 more: Naga, Kurma, Krikara, Devadatta, Dhananjay. These are the 10 types of life air and the 3 types of consciousness. So in the last paragraph, Prabhupada writes, this consciousness is divided into 3 modes: Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika. Identification with the body and the mind, identification with material elements, and identification as the servant of the Lord, Adhidaivika. So this Adhidaivika is the beginning of the purity of consciousness. That's what Prabhupada writes here. Okay, next verse. Translation. Somebody can read the translation of the next verse.
The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Super Soul. He is the cell of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation which does flourishing.
Esha hi Atma Ashesha Sattvanam. So this form is the soul of the unlimited beings. Esha hi Atma. This form is the soul of unlimited living beings. This Hiranyagarbha, it is the aggregate of all the living beings. Paramatma Amsha, it is Jiva, Paramatma Amsha. And it is Adya Avatar, it is the original avatar. And within this form, all the living beings appear. Bhuta Grama Vibhavyate. So all the living entities, they appear in this form. So that is some technical description, given. So we will not go into the detail of this, how it happens. Next verse, we can read the translation. You can sit on the AC. Translation 9th verse.
The identity universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1 in the sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses. He is the dynamic force for all movements by 10 kinds of life energy, and he is the one heart where life energy is engaged.
So, Sa Adhyatma Sadhidevascha. So the 3 Atma Shaktis, Tridha. So Tridha means the senses, the sense devatas, and the gross organs along with the sense objects. So this is the general creation which we have discussed. Adhibhut, Adhideva, and Adhyatma. From Adhibhut, all the Dravya comes. From Adhyatma, the Pran and the 10 senses come. And from Adhideva, the mind and the 10 sense devatas comes. So that is what is described here.
It's very difficult to remember.
पढ़ लीजिए कोई बात नहीं.
तो याद नहीं रहेगा, समझ में आएगा थोड़ा बहुत.
Yeah, so it is little difficult. So the 3 Atma Shaktis are the senses, Tridha. Now he's explaining what is this Ekadha, Dashadha, and Tridha. So Tridha is the senses, the sense devatas, and Adhibhut is the 10 sense objects. Tridha. And the universal form has 10 Prana Shaktis also, and 1 Jiva Shakti with unbroken consciousness. So this that is Jiva Shakti. So Jiva Shakti has consciousness. Then the Jiva Shakti, along with that, there is a Prana Shakti, the 10 life pairs. And then there are 3 Atma Shaktis. 3 Atma Shakti means Adideva, Adhyatma, Adhibhuta. So this gigantic form is represented by 10, 3, 10, and 1. So Prabhupada doesn't go into the detail of all these technical, aspects of creation. Prabhupada just gives a basic understanding of what are the various senses, what are the various elements. So he describes there are 8 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So all these are coming from the Supreme Lord, and all these gross elements, they are like the coat of the. So the famous example, the coat, the blazer, and the person. The coat is the external gross body which we have. The blazer is a subtle body which we can't see so much. And the person is the Atma. So that is the example Prabhupada writes here. The gross elements, they form the external gross body. They are like the coat. Whereas the subtle mind and false ego acts like the inner clothing of the body. And then he writes about the 10 types of air, Apan, Pran. What is Pran? The main air passing through the nose and breathing is Pran. Apan, the air which passes through rectum as evacuated bodily air, Apan. The air which adjusts the foodstuff within the stomach and sometimes sounds as belching is Saman. Udan, the air which passes through the throat and the stoppage of which constitutes suffocation is Udan. And the total air which circulates throughout the entire body is called as Vyan. Apart from them, there are 5 more subtle airs. There is one air which is responsible for movement of the eyes, mouth, that is called as Naga. The air which increases appetite is called as Krikara. Air which helps contraction is called Kurma. Air which helps relaxation by opening the mouth wide and yawning is called Devadatta. Air which helps sustenance is called Dhananjay. So all these are the various types of air. And apart from that, there is one source, one consciousness. That is Atma. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto tasmritir jnanam apohanam cha. Soul and super soul, they are situated in one place. So Prabhupada, he ultimately brings the purport to understanding that the complete central force is generated from the heart by the Lord. So what is the purpose of all these description? The purpose is ultimately to understand that Lord is the source of remembrance, forgetfulness, and all the knowledge. So by the process of devotional service, one should serve the Lord. That is where Prabhupada brings the entire purport. Not to get confused with all the technicalities, कौन सा air किधर जा रहा है, किससे क्या आ रहा है, उसमें पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. Just practice devotional service, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So that is how this Prabhupada makes this entire difficult purport simple to understand in terms of the essence. Okay, 10th verse, translation.
The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods, entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he thought to himself that thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. From their form for their understanding.
Yeah. So the Lord who is Isha Adhokshajaha, the Supreme Lord who is Isha Adhokshaja, he remembered the prayers of the personified Devatas. Smarana Vishwa Srijam Vigyaptim. He remembered, oh, all these Devatas, they have prayed to me. All the personified elements, they prayed to him. So what he did, he desired to create this universal form. Now it is coming, पहले बात जो आगे का बता दिए. Now he is telling what happened after the prayers were made. So that is how the sequence is little different here. He thought to himself and he manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. And then Prabhupada writes how impersonalists they are attracted by this gigantic form. Lord is, Prabhupada focuses on the word adhokshaja. Adha akshaja, akshaja means the senses, eyes, adha akshaja, that which is beyond the sense perception. So Lord is beyond sense perception. He is avang manasa gocharaha. You cannot understand the Lord by your mind, by your words. You cannot glorify. So therefore, the materialists, they can't find the soul and super soul within the heart because you cannot perceive it by your senses. So therefore, those who are foolish, they tell, oh, we cannot perceive by our senses, so Lord does not exist. So that is the impersonal scientific mentality Prabhupada writes about Dr. Frog. The mundane PhD are completely unable to appreciate, speculate on the supreme. Such attempts by a puffed up PhD are compared to the philosophy of the frog in the well. The famous story Prabhupada writes. A frog was informed of a gigantic ocean, Pacific. He began to puff himself up in order to understand or measure the length and breadth of the ocean. Ultimately, frog burst and died. So that's all the attempts of the material scientists. They can never understand. Even Devatas cannot understand. Even Lord says, I cannot understand. So who else can understand the creation? So then after this, Maitreya Muni, he continues. Somebody can read the translation. 11th verse.
Maitreya said, "You may now hear from me how the Supreme Lord separated himself into the diverse forms of the demigods after the manifestation of the gigantic form."
So now the universal form is created. So again, the devatas are, they have to be created from this universal form. So how this secondary creation starts, that is being described here. Oh, sorry, this is still primary creation going on. Lord is still creating this universal form and all the primary devatas. So in the next series of verses from 12 to 26, the various devatas will be created from the various parts of this gigantic form. We'll continue reading from 12 to 26. Somebody can continue.
Agni or heat separated from this form and all the directions. The directors of the material affairs enter into it in their respective positions by their energy delivering the expression first.
Next verse.
When the palette of gigantic form was separately manifested, Varuna, the director of air in the planetary systems, entered therein, and thus the living entity has the facility to test everything with his tongue.
When the Lord's two nostrils separately manifested themselves, the dual Ashwini Kumaras entered them in their proper positions. And because of this, the living entities can smell the aromas of everything.
There are the two eyes of the gigantic form of the Lord were separately manifested. The sun, the director of light, entered them with the partial retention of eyesight, and thus the living entities can have vision of forms.
When there was a manifestation of things separated from the gigantic form, Manila, the deity directing the hand, entered with partial touch, and thus the living entities can realize
Tactile knowledge.
When the years of the gigantic form became manifested, all the controlling agents of the directions entered into them with the hearing principle, by which all the living entities hear and take advantage of sound.
When there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensations and their different parts entered into it, and thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch.
So this is not in sequence. Is it in sequence?
Which one there is?
19th.
When the giants of the living form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities came into its experience.
The evacuating channel separately became manifest, and the director named Mitra entered into it with partial organs of evacuation. Thus the living entities are able to pass through and urinate.
Thereafter, when the hands of the gigantic form separately become manifested, in the ruler of the heavenly planets enter into them, and thus the living entity is able to transit business wise.
Thereafter, the legs of the gigantic form separately became manifest, and the demigod named Vishnu, not the personality of Godhead, entered with partial movement. This helps the living entity move to his destination. When the intelligence of the gigantic form separately became manifest, Brahma, the Lord of the Vedas, entered into it with the partial power of understanding, and thus an object of understanding is experienced by the living entities.
After that, the heart of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered the moon demigod with partial mental activity. Thus, the living entity can conduct his mental speculations.
Thereafter, the materialistic ego of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered Rudra, the controller of false ego, with his own partial activities, by which the living entity transacts its objective actions.
Thereafter, when his consciousness separately manifested itself, the total energy must enter into his conscious part. So the divinity is able to conceive specific knowledge.
Thereafter, from
Okay. So this is the description of the various devatas manifesting from the universal form. So basically, this is the secondary creation which has been described from the Brahmaji. But ultimately, all the devatas, they are also created by Brahma. First set of devatas, they were created by Mahavishnu, all the sense devatas. All the secondary devatas, they are ultimately coming from, they are created by Brahmaji. They are the secondary devatas.
They created the Brahmaji.
Yeah, they are secondary devatas. They are not the primary ones. So the primary ones are the ones who did prayers. And then the entire universe manifested. Then Brahma appeared from the navel, and then Brahma did the creation. So all these devatas, they are manifested, and one of them is Vishnu also. He is one of the devatas. He is not Lord Vishnu. And Brahma is also mentioned there. He is mentioned, right?
Similar to the same primary.
Same. See, what happens? The primary set of devatas, which are created as sense devatas, they are the primary deities. And from them, all the further avatars, they come in all the manvantars. Because in every manvantar, the set of devatas change. Every manvantar, 6 personalities, they appeared. Six types of expansions come: Manvantara, Manudeva, Manuputra, Sureshwara, Rishaya, Amshavatar. Manvantar, in every manvantar, Manu, the predominating Manu, Deva, all the Devatas, Manuputra, the sons of Manu, Sureshwara, Indra, Rishaya, Saptarishi, and Amshavatar. They are all Hare Shadvidam. These are all the expansions of Hari. So the primary Devatas who appeared as sense Devatas from Mahavishnu, from them all the Devatas, they come in every Manvantara. So now in this, the secondary creation, the Brahmaji's creation is happening, but all the Devatas are also responsible for the various parts of the Virat Purusha. How this Virat Purusha functions. Basically, Virat Purusha functions means all the living entities functions. Because what is Hiranmaya? It is aggregate of all the living entities. So all the functions of the living entities, they are ultimately the functions of the Virat Rupa put together. Nothing else. So all the functions of the body in the living entities, they are governed by some devatas. Every part of our body has some devata in charge. So these are all the devatas which are manifested, which are created by Brahma. It will come in the future also. How these are the secondary devatas created by Brahmaji. Primary devatas are created by Karnadaksha Vishnu. So therefore, these devatas, they are called a secondary creation. And the primary ones are the created by Mahavishnu. Okay, so now from
these secondary are also coming from the primary ones.
They are the expansions.
Expansion.
Yeah.
But that is created by Brahma.
Brahmaji, the creation. That is now Visarga.
Visarga.
Sarga means the primary creation of Lord. Visarga means the creation of Brahma. So Visarga is now being described here. So then from 27 to 29, all the another type of Virat Rupa description is given in terms of various planets. All the upper planetary systems are the head, middle are the waist, lower are the leg. That is being described. So we can read 27, 28, 29.
Thereafter, from the head of the gigantic form, the heavenly planets were manifested, and from his legs, the earthly planets, and from his abdomen, the sky separately manifested themselves. Within them, the demigods and others also were manifested in terms of the modes of material nature.
Next.
The demigods qualified by the super excellent quality of the mode of goodness are situated in the heavenly planets, whereas the human beings, because of their nature in the mode of passion, being on the earth in company with their subordinates.
Next.
Beginning these who are associates of Rudra develops in the third mode of material nature or ignorance. They are situated in the sky between the earthly planets and the heaven.
Okay, so that's how the three planetary systems are described, upper, middle, and the lower planetary systems. So in the 29th, Prabhupada writes, the middle portion of the sky is called as Bhuvara Loka, as confirmed by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami. So the Bhuvar Loka is a place also called as Antariksha. And in that, all these yakshas and rakshasas, they live. Bhulok, all the living in all the human beings and all the people on the Bhumandal. So they live. Then upper is the Bhuvar Loka, in that all the yakshas and Gandharvas and the rakshasas and kinnaras, they live. And then there is Swargaloka, where all the devtas live.
Very good question. What is the difference between asuras and rakshasas?
थोड़ा कुछ तो technical अंतर है, I'm not sure, but it is there.
It's taking antariksha,
Hmm.
but asura is anybody can be converted into asura.
नहीं, कुछ तो technical species में भी अंतर है. I'll let you know next time.
Okay.
कुछ तो technical अंतर भी है. It will come in future. So asura species and rakshas species, they are a little different. Yes. Okay, so then from the 30, 32, 33, 32, 33, so the different type of description is just given. How from the mouth of the Virat Rupa Brahmanas come, from the hands Kshatriya comes, from the thighs Vaishya comes, from the legs Shudra comes. So you can read from 30 to 33.
31?
30 to 33.
Okay.
O chief of the Kuru dynasty, the Vedic
No, sorry.
क्या हो गया? 30.
Sorry.
29 तक हो गया ना?
O chief of the Kuru dynasty, the Vedic wisdom become manifested from the mouth of the Virat, like identity form. Those who are inclined to this Vedic knowledge are called Brahmanas, and they are the natural teachers and spiritual masters of all of this world.
So in the purport, Prabhupada describes for the four social orders, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And he says, who is a Brahmana basically? So Brahmana is the one who knows Brahma. ये देखो Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. So Prabhupada writes, just by taking birth in Brahmana family, one does not become Brahmana. One has to qualify himself. And then Prabhupada quotes from Padma Puran this famous verse, Mantra Tantra Visha Avaishnava Guru na syad Vaishnava Shwapacho Guruhu. So Vaishnava is higher than Brahmana, and one who is qualified as Krishna, who knows Krishna Tattva, he is qualified to become a Guru, whether he is a Brahmana, Shudra or Sannyasi. So Prabhupada always brings the purport in such a way that it can be practically applied. So all the technical details, Prabhupada doesn't focus so much, because anyways हम लोग अभी भक्ति वैभव पढ़ के भी सोच रहे हैं कब खत्म होगा ये, कितना इंटेंस कॉम्प्लेक्स क्रिएशन टॉपिक चल रहा है, कुछ समझ नहीं रहा है, क्या बोल रहे हैं प्रभु जी. So Prabhupada knows the mental.
समझ जाता है लेकिन वो कभी याद नहीं आता, अंदर नहीं जाता, बाद में भूल जाते हैं.
So the intellectual capacity is less, so Prabhupada doesn't focus so much on the technical details. Okay, next, 31st.
Thereafter, the power of protection was generated from the arms of the gigantic Virat form. And in relation to such power, the Kshatriyas also came into existence by following the Kshatriya principle of protecting society and the prevalence of peace and influence.
The means of livelihood of all persons, namely production of grains and the distribution to the prajas, was generated from the thighs of the Lord's gigantic form. The mercantile means who take charge of the distribution are called Vaishyas.
Okay, so in the 31st verse, Prabhupada describes who is the ideal Kshatriya. Prabhupada writes about Yudhishthir Maharaj, Parikshit, how Parikshit Maharaj banished Kali. So all that Prabhupada writes, and now in this verse, Prabhupada writes about the Vaishyas. So he says, the exchange of produce by banking and transportation is a branch of this type of living. The Vaishyas are divided into many subsections. Kshetri, Krishana, Tilvanik, Gandhavanik, Swarnavanik. Prabhupada belongs to Swarnavanik family. So the Brahmanas are the teachers, Kshatriyas are protectors, Vaishyas are in charge of production, and Shudras are unintelligent. They are engaged in service of other three. Okay, next verse, 33rd.
Thereafter, service was manifested from the lakes of the personality of Godhead for the sake of perfecting the religious function. Situated on the lakes are the Shudras who service for the Lord by service.
So service is the constitutional position. In fourth canto, there is in this Prithu Maharaj description in the end, the Falashruti is given of hearing. So in that it is described a Brahmana who hears this description, he becomes a knower of all the scriptures. Kshatriya who reads this, he gets controllership of all the planets. Vaishya becomes very, very powerful in getting all the resources, something like that. And he says about Shudra, a Shudra becomes the best devotee of the Lord.
Oh,
By hearing about the pastimes of Prithu Maharaj. So why it is described, Prabhupada bhi nahi likhte hain kuch aur Chakravarti Thakur also doesn't write. So because here also it's described why Shudras are elevated to pure devotional platform, because they have their occupation of serving. So service is constitutional position of Shudras. That is what their nature is. And while by hearing the pastimes of devotees, one actually understands who I am supposed to serve. So they start serving the Supreme Lord nicely because they like to serve. That is their nature. That's how they get elevated to the pure devotional platform. So just additional information. Service, Prabhupada writes the same. Service is a real constitutional position of the living entities. All living entities are supposed to serve the Supreme Lord. And then Prabhupada writes, wherever we are, we should try to serve the Lord. It is clearly said here, the principle of service was generated from the legs of the Lord for the sake of perfecting the religious process. But this transcendental service is different from the idea of service in the material world. Because in material world, service means exploitation, service means no independence, service means no resources. But in the spiritual world, it is not like that. In spiritual world, all the independence is there, all the facilities, all the freedom. In fact, the servant enjoys more than the master. That's why Krishna is thinking, he's serving me and he's enjoying more than me. How is this possible? That's why he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to experience this joy of service. Okay, 34th verse. Now, in this 34th verse, he's describing how all these varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, which are created, they are ultimately meant for serving the Supreme Lord. Ete varna swadharmena yajanti swagurum harim shraddhayatma vishuddhyartham yajjata sahavrittibihi.
All these different social divisions are born with their occupational duties and living conditions from the Supreme Personality of God. Thus, for unconditioned life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of spiritual master.
So since they are born from the bodies of the Lord, so all the parts are supposed to serve the whole. Similarly, all the varnas and all the ashramas, they are supposed to serve the Supreme Lord. Varnashrama charvata purushena parapuman Vishnu aradhyate pantha na anyat tattosha karanam. So all the varna and ashram, they are supposed to serve the Lord. That is the constitutional position of all the varnas and the ashramas. Prabhupada writes about that. That is their constitutional position. Now, the mouth, hand, thighs, legs, they are supposed to serve the body. So all these 4 ashramas, they are supposed to serve the Supreme Lord. But in the conditioned life, one wants to become the controller, lord it over the nature. And the last point of misconception is one thinks that I am God. And then Prabhupada writes how the actual condition is described in this verse, that all conditions are impure due to contact with the material energy. Therefore, it is necessary that they purify themselves under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master. Okay, so that's how this is described. So this is described in many places, how all the dharma is meant to serve the Supreme Lord. Anywhere else, any other verse where it is described, with all our endeavors, all our dharma should ultimately take one to service of the Lord. Okay, any other? Bhagavatam. Dharma sanushtita pumsam vishwaksena kathasuyaha na utpadyed ratim yadi shrama eva hi kevalam. So that is how it is described in various verses. Ata pumbir dvijasreshta varnashrama vibhagasha swanushthitasya dharmasya. What is that like? Samsiddhir hari toshanam. So that is how it is described. Okay, so next verse. Etat shattar bhagavato Daiva karmatma rupinah ka shraddhayadupakartum yoga maya balodayam.
O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So now from 35th to 40 verses, after describing all this, he says, what all things can I describe? I am an insignificant person. Lord is unlimited. So he felt unworthy to describe the glories of the Lord. So in these verses, he is describing how he feels unworthy. Eta Shattar Bhagavato Shattaha, Shatta means Vidura, the Lord's Daiva Karma Atma Rupina. So this gigantic form of work, time and nature, who can describe and estimate properly? It is not possible to describe because it is all manifested by the internal yoga maya balodayam. It is all coming from the internal potency of the Lord. So therefore, no one can understand the potencies of the Lord. It is said even the Ananta Shesha is singing the glories of the Lord since the beginning of the creation. He has not come to an end. Even if somebody can count the grains of sand, snowflakes and sun rays, still one cannot count the glories of the Lord. So that is what is described. And then Prabhupada says, still the froggish philosophers may go on with their mental speculation, but no one can measure. Even Arjuna could not understand. And then he says, the froggish philosopher wants to estimate. Again, Prabhupada tells the story. दूसरे बार story बोल रहे हैं 4 श्लोक में. That's how Prabhupada likes to defeat all these scientists. The best path is to become cool-headed, submissive devotee of the Lord. Try to hear about the Lord and serve the Lord. So that's how it is. So then he says, but still I will speak. Nobody is as fallen, nobody is so fallen then that he will say, मैं तो कुछ भी नहीं बोल सकता भगवान के बारे में. Nobody is like that. Everybody has been given some skills, some capacity. Please glorify the Lord according to your capacity. जब तक पूरा भागवत नहीं पढ़ेंगे तब तक प्रचार नहीं करेंगे. कभी नहीं होगा. So whatever you read, even if you read one line, please speak that. That is what is described. Very famous verse. Tathapi kirtayamyanga yathamati yathashrutam kirti hareh swam satkartum giram manyabhidhasatim.
In spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master and whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech. For otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchaste.
Tathapi, although I am not capable, but still I'll speak. Tathapi kirtayami, according to two things, yathamati, yathashrutam. Whatever I have heard, and as far as my intelligence goes. Kirti Hare Swam, I'll describe the Kirti of the Lord. Otherwise, my tongue will become unchaste. Another place he says, as far as the bird can fly, who can measure the sky? But still, the birds, they fly according to their capacity of the wings. Similarly, I will fly as far as my capacity is. So that's how nobody can say, मेरा तो कुछ भी qualification नहीं है. No. The more we glorify, the more we get purified. So glorification of the Lord and purification of the self goes hand in hand. The more we glorify, the more we get purified. So anywhere else, this similar thing has come. If somebody doesn't describe the glories of the Lord, tongue will become unchaste. Second canto, when the frog's tongue, if the tongue is not glorifying the Lord, it is like frog's tongue. Giram, bile batoru krama vikraman ye na shrunvati karna putena ras jihva asati. Jihva asati, tongue will become unchaste. Jihva sati dar durikeva suta nachopagaya tyurugaya gatha. So asati means when somebody speaks about the things of the world or speaks about one's own self, but doesn't speak about Krishna. That is asati tongue.
But many are there in this world who do that.
Sorry?
Many people are like they speak about themselves, but they don't speak about the Lord.
So, there are asati tongue. Anything which, apart from Krishna Katha, whatever you speak, it is unchaste. So that's how the world is full of such people.
YouTubers or YouTubers.
Prabhupada लिखते हैं उसमें नराधम में 99.9% of the population comes under this category. Bhagavad Gita में लिखते हैं ना Prabhupada. So people who are not devotees, what are they doing? They are just glorifying themselves. Then Prabhupada writes a very important statement. Maitreya's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste conscious activities, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the ability to describe them. This glorification of the Lord is not a product of research, but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of spiritual master. The more we hear, the more we can glorify. If somebody is not hearing, what can he speak? Or somebody is not reading, what can he speak? It is not possible to repeat all that one has heard from his spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. That means whenever you are hearing from someone, please give credit when you are speaking that I heard from this person. Of course, we cannot, every statement, ये मैंने इनसे लिया है, ये मैंने इनसे लिया है. We can't do that. Because जो भी हम बोल रहे हैं, किसी ने किसी से सुना ही है. But when we are hearing, speaking some very striking point, then we should quote from whom we have heard or from where we have read. Otherwise, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 2.2, we are not this body, we are soul. And 2.3, he is saying like this, and 2.5, so kya chal raha hai?
But this the evangelists, they just speak like this.
They speak to make it authoritative.
Joshua 2.2.
To make it authoritative, So, but just to show that I am so humble, मेरा तो कुछ है ही नहीं. मैंने जो भी लिया है, ये प्रभु जी के क्लास में से ये सुना मैंने, and this प्रभु जी says this. वो सुनने वाले बोले आप कुछ बोलेंगे? So of course, when we are speaking something very striking point, so then we should always quote. It's like some statements. अभी चैतन्य चरणों के statements बोलेंगे, तो आपको भी लगेगा, पता चल जाएगा, मेरा तो है ही नहीं, So then definitely I have to give credit, to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu or whoever, So that's how we should be chaste to the parampara, chaste to our teachers. That is called as chastity while speaking. We should not take credit when it does not belong to us. So that is very, very important. Otherwise, it is so very easy to get some fame and recognition and some respect. प्रभु जी ने क्या क्या statement मारा, वाह! But कुछ भी प्रभु जी का नहीं है उसमें से. So we have to give credit, and that will create respect and faith and trust in the audience. ये जो भी है ना, he is telling, he is authentic, and he is speaking, he is humbly presenting. Because if we want to prove ourselves as a wonderful speaker, then people also can, sense that. So that's how we have to be honest while we are speaking. Honest in quoting scriptures, honest in quoting devotees. So that is very, very important. The next is also a very beautiful verse. The only thing.
About Tridandi sannyasi and Ekada sannyasi.
Yeah. Tridandi मतलब वैष्णव सन्यासी. एक दंडी means मायावादी सन्यासी. So मायावादी सन्यासीs, they say we are God. They don't give credit to the Lord. Danda grahana matrena naro narayano bhavet. That is their understanding. Sannyas liya to nar narayan ho gaya. He has become God. But our proposition is not that. We are serving the Lord by our mind, body, and speech. That is three danda. And there is a jiva danda also in that. The living entity and his three faculties: mind, body, and words. Okay, next is a very important verse where it is described what should we expect in this Krishna consciousness movement. Why are we working for? What is the highest perfectional gain a devotee can achieve in this movement? Ekantalabham vachasonupumsam sushlokamauler gunavadamaho Shrutesha vidvadbhirupakritayam Katha sudhayam upasamprayogam.
The highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussion of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the great learned sages that the actual purpose of the year is served just by being near them.
Ekant labh, the highest perfectional gain of humanity. Vachasonupumsam, what is that? Sushloka Mauli Gunavadam Ahu. Ahu means it is said. What is said? What is the highest perfectional gain? To engage in the discussions of activities and the glories of the pious actor. Who is the pious actor? The Supreme Lord. He is the pious actor. Nato natya dharo yatha. Whatever acts he is performing, he is just acting. He has nothing to do in this world. Whatever he is doing is acting. But he performs his activities, his action, his role very nicely. So the highest perfection is Shu Shloka Maule Gunavadamahu, the pious actor. We have to hear the activities of the pious actor. And who are describing these activities? Shrutescha Vidvadbhi. Vidvadbhi means all the learned souls, they have described the activities in Upakritayam. in very nicely arranged poetry. That's why Lord is called as Uttama Shloka. And Katha Sudhayam Upasamprayogam. This Katha Sudha, this nectar of the pastimes of the Lord, is the real purpose of ears. To hear them. Upasamprayogam. Upa means to near. Being nearer to them, being nearer to such descriptions, it serves the real purpose. Samprayogam. Yoga means to connect. Prayoga means perfectly connect. Samprayoga means to perfectly connect. No. That is the real purpose of the descriptions. To be near. Real purpose of the ear is to be near such descriptions. Near to such descriptions. Chakravarti Thakur writes, describing anything else is a waste of words, and it is the highest attainment to closely offer the ears to the nectarian topics of the Lord. So that is the ultimate wealth which we should expect in this Krishna consciousness. In our process of devotional service, we get, just like a person who is working in a company, he gets a salary and he gets perks and benefits. So we are also working and we want a salary, and that salary is Prema Ratana Dhan. Prema Ratana Bina Daridra Jivan Das Kori Vetan More Deho Prem Dhan. What is the Vetan we are asking for? Prem Dhan. Prema Dhan Bina Daridra Jivan. But along with that, some perks, benefits also come. What are they? That is fame, prestige, honor, adoration, distinction, they'll come. So a devotee should be very, very careful not to get caught up in that perks and benefits and forget to take the main salary. Because the perks and benefits are very attractive. The salary may not be attractive, but the perks and benefits are very attractive in this Krishna consciousness. And we should know the currency in which we will get the salary. If we are not aware of the currency in which we will get the salary, we will think, ye kaun sa salary diya mere ko? If person is not aware that, okay, if he is going in Saudi and he gets a salary in dinar, बोले मेरे को तो rupees में मिलता था, ये कौन सा salary? दिनार का value क्या मालूम है? So he will reject it if he is not aware of the value of that. So the form of the salary which we are getting here is Shushlok Maule Gunvada Mahu, hearing and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. That is the salary which we are getting. Hearing, that is a form. And by that form, we'll get Prem Ratan Dhan. That is the Vetan we'll get. So we should know the form of the salary and what is the salary we are getting. Otherwise, it is so very easy to get distracted. Upa Samprayogam.
Form of the salary is seeking the truth.
Hearing and chanting. That is a form. And salary is Prem Dhan. So that is what we have to be aware of. Otherwise, in our society, we will get the best of everything. Best of Krishna and best of Maya. So if we are not careful, then we may get distracted. Okay, so Prabhupada writes about Gunavadam. Gunavadam is significant because the qualities of the Lord and his activities and pastimes are subject matter for discussion of devotees. And that happiness is the highest. Okay, we'll quickly complete this chapter.
What
Then
is Kaivalya happiness?
Impersonal liberation. Brahmananda. So then he says, "O my son," so now Maitreya is telling to Vidurji, "O my son, Brahma, after meditation for 1000 celestial years, he could know that the glories are inconceivable." इतना ही पता चला कि मुझे नहीं पता चल सकता है, you know? So one devotee asked Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, yeah, you are saying you cannot understand Krishna, then why you have written so many books?" Prabhupada said, "So that you can understand that you can't understand." So ब्रह्मा जी 1000 साल के बाद यही पता किए कि उनको पता नहीं चल सकता है. He could only know that the glories are inconceivable. That's it. So Prabhupada quotes that Brahma Samhita verse, Panthastu Koti Shatavatsara. Even if you speculate for millions of lifetimes, you will not understand Krishna, because only devotees can understand Krishna. Bhaktya Mama Bijanati. Okay, 39th verse. Now he describes how inconceivable the Lord's Maya is. Ato Bhagavato Maya.
Ato bhagavato maya.
Mainam api mohini. Yat swayam
मायिनामपि मोहिनीं
That's why I am
यत्
na
स्वयं
veda
चात्मरत्माना
kimutapare.
न वेद किं
The
परे
supreme personality of Godhead is bewildering even to the jugglers. That potential power is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord, so it is certainly unknown to others.
भगवान भी नहीं समझ रहे, दूसरा कौन समझेगा? Mainam api mohini. Maina means jugglers. It can bewilder even the jugglers. Yat swayam cha atma vartama. Self-sufficient Lord cannot understand. Who is he? How is it possible? How can Lord not understand himself? There is a constant competition between the omniscience and omnipotence of the Lord. Just like mundane example, अभी एक बिलियनियर से पूछेंगे कितना है आपका वर्थ, नेटवर्थ, जब तक बताएगा उसका नेटवर्थ बढ़ चुका है. So there is a constant competition between the omnipotence, the powers of the Lord, and omniscience. कितना power है? So जब तक बताते हैं तब तक बढ़ गया already. So that's how there is constant competition. Prabhupada writes, the most wonderful puzzle for the mundane wranglers is that while they remain calculating the length and breadth of the unlimited potency, his faithful devotees are set free from the bondage of material engagement simply by appreciating. अच्छा है, कितना है वो आप calculate करते रहो. That is the difference between word jugglers, jnanis and the yoga and devotees. Jnanis, they try to find कितना बड़ा है. Devotee बोलते हैं बहुत बड़ा है. They are happy in that, and they serve Krishna. So Prabhupada writes in the 5th chapter the difference between Sankhya and Yoga. What is Sankhya? Trying to find the root of the tree, and Bhakti is
Eating the fruits of the tree.
watering the root of the tree. Watering the root of the tree. So we serve Krishna. Okay, so Prabhupada writes, the devotees of the Lord see the wonderful dexterity in everything with which they come in contact in all circumstances. So they can glorify the Lord in any situation, in anything of the world. They see a small seed and they see, wow, the Lord is so, story, you know, Narad Muni goes to a cobbler and so that's how it is. So a devotee is not interested in trying to find out, trying to figure out. As it is said, don't try to figure out this world, just get out of this world, you know. We can't figure out. It is all confusing. Nobody can understand. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, Na rupamasyeha tathopalabhyate nanto na chader na cha sampratishtha ashwattamenam suviruda moolam asanga shastrena dridena chitva. Don't try to figure out how this world looks like, works. Na rupam, koi nahi samajh paya. Just get out. Okay, the last verse. So now, Vidurji. Okay, so the last verse he says, therefore, I am just describing something as a matter of sanity. An interesting thing is, even Lord gets bewildered. There is another verse, a beautiful description. One time, Lord is looking his own reflection in the jeweled pillar in Dwarka, and he starts thinking, who is he? Kaun hai? He is sitting down and looking at this personality. Kaviraj Goswami writes so verse, रूप देखी आपनार कृष्णेर होइला चमत्कार आस्वादिते मने उठे काम स्वसौभाग्य यार नाम सौंदर्यादि गुणग्राम एई रूप नित्य तार धाम रूप देखी आपनार कृष्णेर होइला चमत्कार. Krishna is astonished. कौन है ये? So that is how it is. When Lord cannot understand. Okay, last verse. Yato prapya nivartanta vachasya manasasaha aham
वाचश्च
cha
मनसा सह
deva
अहं चान्ययमे देव तस्मै भगवते नमः.
Towards mind and ego with their respective controlling demigods are they to achieve success in knowing the supreme personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to observe our respective knowledges on the being and future of sin.
Okay, so as a matter of sanity, we should offer respects. That means Prabhupada is saying, Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada actually adds these words. The last line, verse mein nahi hai. As a matter of sanity. That is Prabhupada's extra addition. मतलब कौन पागल होगा जो नहीं पढ़ेगा? मतलब तस्मै भगवते नमः. That's it. Prabhupada writes as a matter of sanity. That is Prabhupada's addition there. So that's how Prabhupada writes. Again Prabhupada writes about froggish calculator. Prabhupada chhod hi nahi froggish calculator ko. So devotees are not so interested in all this. They are just interested in serving the Lord, because even Brahma, Rudra, Chandra, Maruta, they all are not capable of understanding. Yam Brahma, Varunendra, Rudra, Maruta, Stunvanti Divyaistavai. That's the verse Prabhupada is paraphrasing here. And then Prabhupada writes, only devotees can understand. Bhaktyama Abhijanati. So with that, this chapter ends. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.